Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Today, we are going to be continuing on with the different character build guides, and we are revisiting one that I had kind of gotten this whole mess started with to begin with, and that was the Fighter. The Fighter is a classic, it's a staple of so many different RPGs. I mean, it's hard to really list them all because it's just such a very classic, ubiquitous, common thing that no game would really quite ever feel complete without it. But with that said, fighters tend to be one of the lower tier classes if you're really concerned with the maximum mechanical output that a character can do at any given time for any given situation. They're only really good at one thing, and that's combat. And, seems fitting, but when you have classes like clerics, wizards, druids, bards who have, well, bards don't have the full spellcasting progression like those other classes do, but they are still much more versatile and have a wider range of applicability. But even with that in mind, as you know by now, while I do understand the mechanics of the game, that's not really what I like to focus on. And this is just one of my favorite classes ever. It's just such a classic and staple, as I said before, that I just can't help but make fighters. Whatever game I'm playing, whether it's Pathfinder, Rollmaster, Shadowrun, Warhammer 40k, Dark Heresy, things like that, I need to make a fighter at least once to try it out, feel it, and uh, just dive right in. And speaking of diving right in, let's go ahead and go into the Pathfinder Fighter's Guide, and we're going to roll on with the hack and slash. Now, of course, starting us off, like we always do, we are going to take a look at races and statistics. And to start us off, we're going to go with our ever reliable human. You get a +2 to any stat, an extra feat, skill points, and if your DM allows, this is something I'd found recently while scrolling through the Paizo board, something I'd missed all the other occasions doing research, and that's the alchemically enhanced trait. What this does for you is it gives you a +3 modifier to your strength, dexterity, and constitution score, to the score overall, not the modifier. This replaces the +2 bonus that you can assign to any stat. In exchange, though, you do take a -2 penalty to your fortitude saves against poison specifically. Really, that's not that bad, given that fighters get an awesome fortitude save, and not only that, but you're getting the +3 constitution score, so that's mitigating it down to really kind of a -1 overall. If you really want to break down the math there, it's not great to have, but you know what? This is still pretty damn handy and makes the human a really strong contender for the fighter class. But then you also have the half-orc. I think this one is also an excellent choice. You get dark vision, +2 to any stat, like the human, and the ferocity trait allows you to act as if you're disabled past 0 hit points for 1 round. If you hit -10, obviously you're just dead, but even though you're disabled and you only have 1 round, that's 1 round for you to pull out a potion and chug it down and maybe keep yourself in the fight longer. Maybe not much longer, but maybe you only need that one extra turn for the cleric to come over, slap you with the healing spell, and keep you going right along and keep you from just chugging along right off to the afterlife. But after that, we also have the dwarf. The dwarves get a +2 constitution bonus and wisdom, and with a -2 charisma. Now, charisma for us is going to be a dump stat, and constitution is handy. Wisdom, I mean, it's nice to have that there because will saves are the big Achilles heel for fighters overall. Uh, I mean, enchantments and the like, just having those come down on you is terrible. Illusions, charm person, things like that are going to be an absolute bane against you and also make you a problem for your party to deal with. You get a 20-foot speed, which kind of hurts, but you're not affected by a heavy armor speed reduction or affected by carrying a medium or heavy load in terms of your speed reduction either. And also, there are lots of alternate traits for you to swap out on depending on the campaign. You can trade out the enmity against orcs, goblinoids, that gives you a +1 bonus to attack and damage against those kinds of creatures for the same bonuses against undead or dragons or just so many other different characters. So depending on the campaign that you're running in, if the DM's willing to divulge a little bit of information to you to help you build a better character, then you have some options here. This is not a bad choice by any means. Not as good as the half-orc, and certainly not as good as the human is in this case, but still not bad. And also, hobgoblins make a pretty good choice as well, getting a +2 bonus to their dexterity and constitution scores, both of which are going to be massively useful. You get dark vision out to 60 feet and a +4 bonus to your stealth skill. Now, I'd say consider swapping out Sneaky for the Mage Hunter trait to get a bonus on spellcraft checks to identify spells being cast, and gives you a bonus to attack against arcane spellcasters. It's not the biggest bonus ever, but you know what? Spellcasters are just. They are arcane spellcasters, especially wizards. They can play havoc on the battlefield. They will play havoc on the battlefield. Making sure you get close and maximizing your odds of hitting them is going to be important. Now, they're going to have plenty of ways around that, all kinds of contingency spells, teleportation, just outright spells to help reduce the amount of damage they take if they're throwing on a stone skin. But still, this will be very helpful for you. It'll help you with planning and just dealing with the problem of spellcasters overall. Now, half-elves are another one that's interesting. You get a +2 bonus to any stat, and of course you want to dump that into strength like with the others. You get to be immune to magic sleep effects, which is great, and you get a +2 will save against enchantment effects, which is absolutely what you want to have as a fighter. You also are getting a +2 bonus to your perception, which is the most used skill in the game overall. You have low light vision, not great as dark vision, but certainly better than what humans have, so you're going to be okay fighting on some nights. And you get skill bonus or skill focus as a bonus feat, which, yay. Put that in perception maybe, boost that even further, make your have the party asking you what your half elf eyes see. But the last one here, from just a purely mechanical standpoint, halflings. Just no. You're small size, which means all the weapons you use are going to be the small versions, so that's reduced damage output. And you get a strength penalty, which is reduced damage output. Mechanically, just with the math and the numbers, halflings do not make great fighters. They get all kinds of bonuses to their defense, to their stealth skills and the like. Very, very handy. Very, very useful creatures overall, but not great as fighters. But when we want to build our fighters after we've selected the race and the traits, we want to have an array that looks something a little bit like this. With strength being the primary focus, we want to bump that up to a 17. And this for this build, we're assuming our usual 20-point buy, focusing on strength for that accuracy on hitting and damage output. Dexterity is that prime stat that's going to improve your defenses, reflex saves, and place you higher on the initiative order. And Constitution, of course, is going to give you those all-important hit points that are going to help keep you alive in the fight, as well as boosting your Fortitude save. Wisdom is not... It's important enough that if you can put a couple of points into it here or there, maybe wouldn't hurt. Maybe at least put in one so that you get a +1 bonus to your will saves. It's going to help with that particular Achilles heel. Intelligence, we're not too worried about overall. We're not going to be getting a ton of skill points, and we're not really focusing on that either. And neither are we focusing on charisma. About the only skill that we have that depends on that is going to be intimidate. And, well, you can make an argument or, reason with your DM that, hey, this guy's tied down, I'm big, powerful, scary. I'm going to use that to my advantage when I'm trying to intimidate this guy. And maybe they'll let you substitute your strength or give you some kind of a random numerical bonus, whatever seems appropriate for the setting. Now, of course, rolling 4d6, taking the three highest, will allow you to have possibly a greater stat rate than this. But overall, this is the kind of focus that you want to have. Just focusing on your strength, then dexterity and constitution, wisdom, and then intelligence and charisma. If they're better than this, fantastic. If not, you're really not going to hurt yourself overall. But this is going to be the focus, pumping up strength and building up that damage output to something ridiculous. Fighters, I find a great level of challenge in because you don't have that huge array of abilities like a druid will. You can't cast spells. You can't shapeshift into different creatures. You can't summon nature's ally like a druid can. Clerics healing themselves, buffing themselves, making them incredibly powerful melee combatants, and wizards just damn near being untouchable gods on the battlefield, just messing with the terrain, summoning monsters, throwing spells out, buffing allies, debuffing you and your friends. Really, even a halfway well put together wizard will be a massive pain in the ass for the party. So you, even though you may not be the most intelligent character on the board, you still need to play with a little bit of cleverness, and a good fighter will be clever. See opportunities to set up flanking for the rogue. Guard the casters from whatever charging brutes might be trying to get in melee with them. And if you can, getting in close to those wizards and putting them down fast will be massively important. Granted, you might want to let your rogue do that, letting them sneak up, slip up behind, and then, two-weapon fighting daggers just immediately flurrying into their backs and just racking up that awful, awful sneak attack damage. But this is all for now. This is only the start. We are, of course, going to keep diving in layer by layer and picking apart the fighter and seeing how exactly we can build him better. Hopefully you found that I've improved upon this particular format since I recorded this so long ago. And I hope you've enjoyed today's video overall. And speaking of enjoying videos, if you did, why not consider going down and clicking like, or hell, even the subscribe button, so that way you get updated the moment I bring you more content here. And if you're looking for more content, then over here are going to be a couple of videos that you might find interesting as well. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so much for your time, and have yourselves a good night.